Hello, Assalamu alaikum. WebEx is not working, so we are going to do this here. Let's wait for the people and then we will get started. Walaikum assalam. Can you hear me? Walaikum assalam. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, write down here. Yes, if you can hear me properly. Okay. So, sorry, this WebEx is not working many times, but it wasn't working, so we had to shift to this Facebook. Let's start our lecture as soon as possible so that if you have other classes, then you will not miss more. I will still upload this video on YouTube later. So, we talked about hypothesis, um how hypothesis is developed using the inductive and deductive and abductive approaches. And now we have just two topics left, two main topics left. One of the topics is pretty easy, so I'm going to go with that today. And the other one is a bit difficult, and that's why I would have to share a lot of um, reading material, so to for you to actually grasp the kind of topic that is. So let's do the easy one first. The easy one is called theories of truth. So there are some theories of truth um, that actually help us to identify or basically see if something is really true or not. Now, the question is, how do we know if something is true? What is truth? So, how do we know that? Now, it's not as easy as it sounds. For example, if I ask you to tell me there are some truths that are pretty close to being objective, while there are some truths that are very subjective in nature. Now, being objective means that the truth is dependent on the thing that we are talking about, while subjective means that the truth is dependent on the person who is talking about the thing. So, for example, if I ask you all the name of the course that you are studying with me, so it's a pretty objective question, and your answer would be uh, very similar. The same answer, you will all give the same answer: introduction to logic. But if I ask you all to to tell me the color of the shirt that I am wearing right now. So let's do this. Let's see what happens. Type the name of the type the color of the shirt that I am wearing right now. Let's see if we have the same answers or not. Also, that will help me know that if you are really listening or not. Go ahead. I'm looking for your comments. Okay, one answer so far. Sea green and green. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So the question is really, because sea green and green color are not really the same colors. So my question would be, which of this is true? Is Talib and Anas correct, or Shoaib or Muhammad Baksh and Ramsha and Sumaya are correct? And if they are not correct, are the even a more critical question would be, are they lying? If they are not telling the truth, are they lying? Now the answer to this is that they are not lying, but they see the truth differently. Now this is still, this shirt is quite clear in its view, but there might be other colors or other things that are very different from different perspectives. For example, there is the portion of Kashmir that is with Pakistan. We call it Azad Kashmir, and the Kashmir that is with India is called disputed Kashmir. If you live in India, then the portion that is with India is the Azad Kashmir, and the portion with Pakistan is the disputed one. Now, who is right? So we cannot really say the truth is absolute everywhere. So it is different according to different perspectives. Now, how do we really then categorize these truths? So the answer to that is that we say that there are many theories of truths now. The first theory of truth is called the correspondence theory of truth. Correspondence theory of truth says that all truths correspond to something that is objective, that can be measurable, that can be uh, in any way, um, it can be, it can be, you can point at it, it corresponds to something. So that's called the correspondence theory of truth. In correspondence theory of truth, you are looking at anything, and you can see that it exists. We can see it with our senses, we can smell or touch it, we can taste it, then it exists, and if it exists, we can talk about the truth. We can say that it is true because we can perceive it with our senses. So, for example, this if you can see or read something and when it is written in some word, then it corresponds to a certain, and you can say that this is the truth. So correspondence theory of truth is quite the same. It goes for most of natural sciences, in which we say, for example, if I take the temperature of the air and in Karachi, and it turns out to be 40 degrees centigrade at 12 o'clock. So I say that since the temperature is 40 degrees centigrade, it is quite hot in Karachi, and that is based purely on some measurable truths. The temperature is measured, and the average temperature of the world is measured, and we can say that since it is a higher temperature than the average of the temperatures, then it is a uh, hot environment today, hot weather today. So that is based on some measurable truths, measurable things that can be measured with certainty, and no matter how or who measures it, the answer will be the same. You measure it with different units or different person measures it, the truth will remain the same. So correspondence theory, it is not dependent on the person who is talking about the truth or seeing the truth or categorizing the truth. It is irrespective of the person involved. But there is a problem. The problem is that all these truths cannot, all the things in the world are not purely objective. Some of these are subjective in nature, like the color of my shirt, or which of which Kashmir is really the Azad Kashmir. So the other theory of truth is called uh, um, the coherence theory of truth. In the coherence theory of truth, uh, we say that something is true if most of the people that are talking about it are saying that it is true. If most of the people say it is so. For example, if in the case of the shirt, if uh, if 10 people have replied and 8 of them said sea green and 2 of them said green, then we will say that because most majority of the people are saying that it is sea green, so it is sea green. So that's called coherence theory of truth. Now, coherence theory of truth is used where in research, in research of using social sciences. So, how is that done, and why do we use it? So we use it when we are asking the opinions of people about some social research. Social research means that we are talking about the the habits of people. We are talking about the preferences of people. We are talking about what they think about something. So, for example, if we have to do research on On the advertisements that are shown during Ramzan, do you think the advertisements that are shown during Ramzan, they try to sell themselves using religion? Do you think so? If I am asking this question, there is no objective truth involved here. It is only an opinion based truth. So, if most of the people say that yes, they use the name of religion to sell their products, then that will become the truth. And we can say that since most people have agreed to this statement in the Likert scale that we gave them, therefore it is the truth. Okay. Uh, so the first one is called the correspondence theory of truth. The second is called the coherence theory of truth, and the third is, let's first talk about the um, is called the semantic theory of truth. Acha, there are actually you can say that there are five, but we are only going to discuss four because the redundancy theory of truth is a more of a philosophical matter than logic. So we don't need to discuss that. We can only talk about the four are enough for us. Acha. So, for example, we are talking about the semantic theory of truth. In the semantic theory of truth, semantic means the use of words. So, semantic means that something is true based on the meanings of the words or the property of the words that have been chosen to express the truth. Now, that is a difficult concept to grasp at first, but let me explain. Now, how does this uh, work really? For example, if I say that uh, water is transparent, or water is blue when you look at the sea. So, water is blue because when we look at the sea, it is blue, but in actuality, it is transparent. Now, these two words actually are different, they are conflicting, but both are true. Because when we are saying water is transparent, we actually are saying that we are talking about some water that is on us in a certain quantity in our hand. So it is implied in that sentence that we are talking about not a large water body, but a small quantity of water. We can also look at semantic in another way when we say that the certain meaning of a word actually changes the meaning of the whole truth. For example, if I say that that is terrific news, that is terrific news. So I say that some meteors. I saw some there were some meteors falling uh, on from the sky, and that was terrific news. So am I talking about it in a good way or a bad way? I can talk about it in a good way, saying that I loved the meteor shower. Looking at the meteor shower, it was great to see. Or I can say that it was very destructive. The meteor shower fell down on many places, and it destroyed many houses, and so that is terrific news. Now the word terrific is has the origin of the word terrific is from terror. So terrific means that which causes terror, but we use terrific, the word terrific, in a positive way. So if somebody says that it is terrific news, it can mean both. It can be taken literally in the real sense of the word, that terrific means very very bad, and it can also be taken in a good way, that is very good. That's terrific. So the truth depends on how the meanings are taken. So how do we really know if that is the truth? So what we'll have to do is that we will have to see the context. We will have to see the whole thing. If that person is talking about everything in the literal way, then we will take this portion of of the whole maybe article or the whole news as in the literal way. If that person is talking in in metaphorically or in such words, then we can say that this is good news. So we will have to look at the text. So semantic theory of truth depends on the property of the sentences, how they are placed, and that changes the truth. And then lastly, we have the pragmatic approach, or the pragmatic theory of truth. So the pragmatic theory of truth says that the theory that actually what pragmatism says is that we should do what works. Simply what works. Whatever serves our purpose is good, is right. So pragmatic theory of truth is that we cannot find the truth in one way. It says that we should use coherence theory or correspondence theory or semantic theory, all of them mixed together to find the real truth, if that works. So if correspondence, if we are doing something in natural sciences, we should go for correspondence theory if we can measure the thing directly. If we cannot measure the thing directly, we should go for coherence theory of truth. If we can measure something directly but opinions are also involved, then we can combine both coherence and correspondence. So uh, now how does this really work? That's called pragmatic theory of truth. What works for us is the right thing. Now when we are doing some research, for example, if I do a research on retail behavior of people in supermarkets, and my research is that people tend to be slower in shopping when the traffic inside the store, the people inside the store are less in number. They are less number. There is more room to uh, go around and easily find these things, so they take more time. And if there is a lot of rush in the supermarket, then they buy things quickly and they go out. Now this is an assumption, and I need to find out if it is true. Now, how can I find this? Now there are two ways to do it. One way is that I simply observe. I I see that I measure the time taken by a single customer who comes in at a rush time, or a person who comes in at a quiet time, and I just compare these two times. But the problem is that we cannot ever be really sure if that person took time because there was rush, or took time because there wasn't any rush, or that person did quickly because that person himself didn't have time but did not do it because of the rush. So how can we really know? So what we do is that we also go and ask these people. So we also conduct interviews of people or have a questionnaire, and then we collect the data from the correspondence theory of truth on one side, and we have the coherence theory of truth, which means taking the uh, in opinions of the people on the other side. In fact, in the coherence theory of truth, it also matters who is saying it. For example, if I say um, about something, for example, if I ask anybody what is the um, ideal height or ideal height of a 3-year-old child. So most people will what they'll do is that they'll remember try to recall the height of their own children, and then they will say that it is around that. So who will give me the right answer, the true answer? The true answer has to come from an expert. Somebody who is a doctor might be able to give a better answer. In fact, in if I ask any doctor, it wouldn't be good. So if I ask a pediatrician, a child specialist, that child specialist is more likely to give an accurate answer that is closer to the truth. It means that our answers are dependent on the truths, on the persons who are giving it. So, so it means that the more expert or the relevant people are talking about something, then we can say that their opinion matters more in the coherence theory of truth as compared to the layman. That is why when we are doing research, and if we are taking the opinions of the general people, the general public, then we have to take opinions of like 400 people. But if we are taking the expert opinion, then even 10, 20, 30 people are enough. So, because the weightage of the opinion of the expert is more in coherence theory, therefore, we don't need to take that large a sample in social research when it comes to taking opinions. So coherence of truth is when we are taking the opinions of the people, and correspondence is when we are taking that. Also, when how do we use the semantic theory of truth in this whole instance of that retail behavior of people taking more time in the rush hours? Now the question is, the correspondence theory of truth school will say that, have you observed the times that people have taken to go when they are going in and when they are going out against the overall number of people in the whole supermarket? So you correlate that in a software, and if they correlate with each other, then it means that the traffic has an impact on the time taken by people. The coherence theory of truth will say that you need to ask those people if they shopped quickly because it was a rush, or they took time because there was no rush. So you have to ask them, and if they say so, then it means that truly the two things are correlated. So the semantic theory of truth actually asks another question, which is very important as well, which is number one: what is the rush hour? How do we know? At what point do we say that the supermarket is full of people? It is very crowded. So the word crowded is a semantic. It's a word. Semantic means the meaning of the word. So if there is a room, for example, the Majo classroom, and you know that it has around about 45, 50 uh, s- seats in every classroom. So the question is, if we know for sure that if 45 out of 45 are are full, everybody is there, we can say it's a crowded class. And if there are just five people in those 45, we can say that it is empty, close to empty. But the question is, when do we really say that it is crowded? At which point? Is it crowded at 30? Is it crowded at 35? Is it crowded at 40? What's the rule? How do we know? What is the meaning of crowded here? So semantic theory actually raises this question, that whatever terms you are using, what do they really mean, and how have you given those meanings? So if I say that crowded is something, then this word, then I have to define that word, and now I can define those words in two different ways. Again, we can again go for the correspondence theory of truth or the coherence theory of truth to define the word crowded. So we can ask people and say that, what does crowded means? If you are in a corridor in a supermarket and there are more than three other people in that same corridor, is it crowded? So more than five people, is it crowded? So we ask them, and their answer will tell us how many people does crowded really mean, and then we can change our research according to that, so that we can label that this is crowded and this is not. So whenever we are doing research, we are doing these three things. We are using the correspondence theory of truth, and we are using the coherence theory of truth, and we are also using uh, um, the semantic theory of truth, and then we are using our judgment to use which one with which to mix, how to mix them all. Do the corresponding only, do the coherent only, or mix them both, do which one first. All of these decisions are based on the pragmatic theory of truth. So this is just an overview of the theories of truth and how they are used in research. Of course, you will be needing some more reading and viewing material to really understand these theories of truth, which I will send you. Um, okay, let's just talk about the last theory of truth. And the last theory of truth is called the redundancy of theory of truth. If I ask you about the theories of truth in the exam, I will not be asking about the redundancy theory, but we will the only the first four will be covered in the exam questions. So redundancy theory means that truth cannot be told by the person who is saying that it is true, or something cannot be true if you are saying that it is true. That is the only way that we can find out if it is true. For example, if I say that my name is Shahid, then that the redundancy theory says that if you are saying that you are Shahid, then we cannot accept it, because you can only we can only say it is true when others say it, when others confirm, when others are when most of the people that we ask have the same opinion about this statement, then we can say it. For example, and that is actually correct, that applies somewhere as well. So if you go to if you have a flight and you are going from Karachi to Dubai, and you enter the airport and you say that this is my ticket, and let's say who's here, Hatim. So Hatim is going to uh, Dubai, and he says that this is my ticket, and I have to go to Dubai. So they ask, how do we know that you are Hatim? This is just a piece of paper, you can print it from anywhere. How do we know that you are Hatim and you booked this? And so Hatim says that my name is Hatim. I know my name. I know myself. So you should believe me. So what will they do? They will ask for your NIC. They will ask for your passport. And on the passport and on the NIC, they will have a picture. And then that picture will verify if it is really Hatim or not. So it means that the person who is claiming to be somebody doesn't really matter. What matters is the authority that says if it is true or not. So the redundancy theory says that if someone says that it is true because I'm saying it, it doesn't matter. When an authority says it, only then we can, somebody who has more credentials and somebody outside that credential. So interestingly, even the person with the most credentials, if that person is saying something about something, even then it doesn't matter, because redundancy theory says that the person saying something about himself or the statement in itself cannot be proven true unless it is verified by an external source. So verification from an external source is important, very, very important in terms of redundancy theory of truth. And that actually works in all of legal matters, in all of those things. For example, if I say that this is my will, I have written a will, and I go and I ask the property agent that this is my will, I have written this on this paper, and please distribute my wealth according to this will. Will the property agent go to the KDA office and all of those places and do it, or the lawyer will do it? No. They will first ask me to put that will on a stamp paper, on a legal paper, and then they will have a couple of witnesses there who will who will say that yes, we have witnessed that this person has given this will. Even my own presence there with a piece of paper will not matter unless it is verified by those people who are who have witnessed it in a legal proceeding. Okay, so that is what redundancy theory of truth means. So we have discussed these all these theories of today, and if you have any questions, then you can go ahead and ask. So I'm waiting, also taking the attendance. Is Fazullah here? Fazullah Ali Baksh? Not here. Zain is not also here. Sana Masood is also not here. Mohammad Rehan is also not here. Mohammad Rehan. Okay, so I marked the attendance and I've told you that attendance really is not being counted. Your assignment services are being counted. So just make sure that you submit those. But the attendance is just for our record. If you have any questions, please ask or we'll wrap up. No questions? So if there are no questions, then okay. So that's it for today and see you guys next Tuesday. You can ask if there are any things, uh, then you can ask on Google Classroom as well. Okay, so that's it for now and see you on next Tuesday. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.